Here we go. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Minicamp in the books. The next time we get to see this team in live action will be in Greenbrier, West Virginia at the resort, where we get our first glimpse of the 2023 Cleveland Browns preseason and training camp. So, with that being said, I've got some big picture takeaways coming out of minicamp, and I want to start with this, the first one. Major changes on offense. Yes, you can expect to see this. Deshaun Watson speaking to the media after minicamp. The phrase he kept going back to was, everything's new. Last offseason, the offense was catered to Jacoby Brissett because he would be the primary quarterback for 2022. That is different this year. It is all hands on deck getting the best out of Deshaun Watson. Now, this is what Watson had to say on the Browns offense. I would just say the foundation and the structure of the offense is the same, but as we build and continue to get ready for the season, everything else is new. I cannot wait to see what Kevin Stefanski has been doing in his basement all offseason long, preparing for the 2023 season. Him and AVP, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback's coach have catered this new offense to Deshaun Watson. So before your uninformed NFL friends that say, well, they had Watson last year in the preseason, why weren't they ready last year? Because now you can look back and go, once the Browns knew they had Jacoby Brissett for 11 games, they were going to do their best to hopefully maximize him and get as many wins out as they could, but they knew that the playoffs would be a long shot. This year, totally different ballgame. Look at the aggressive moves they have made. Za'Darius Smith, Elijah Moore, they are doing everything possible to maximize Deshaun Watson without completely throwing caution to the wind and punting on 2024 and beyond. The Browns offense, or the Browns as a whole, averaged 16.8 points per game with Watson at QB last year, and that's including the Houston game with the defense and special teams doing a bulk of the scoring. If you just look at the offense, it's much closer to 12 to 13 points. Those numbers will skyrocket in 2023. Mark my words. So if you are a believer in the Browns offseason moves so far, and you are a believer in what they are going to do and accomplish in 2023, show me that by liking the video. Our videos lately have been popping off a little bit in the likes column. We've never gotten to 1,000 likes on a video. What a great video to get 1,000 likes to, because of all the belief the Dog Pound has in Kevin Stefanski and the Browns in 2023. Our second takeaway, though, is all on the offense still, and Deshaun Watson. He's 11 out of 10. He's above a perfect score. He has been all that's been advertised and more so far in the offseason and minicamp. Watson, I don't know how to put it in number senses because you can't do that in minicamp and OTAs, but he's passed the vibe check. I know that sounds surface level and cliche, but he has looked much more comfortable this offseason. The highlights, they're not few and far between. There's not one or two David Bell touchdowns, okay? He is consistently connecting with DPJ, Amari Cooper, and Elijah Moore for touchdowns time after time after time. And yes, OTAs and minicamp are designed for the offense to be successful. But if they're designed to be successful, you want them to be successful, and they are. This is what Watson had to say on going into year 2 with the Browns. I'm pretty far ahead of where I was last year. Last year, as far as football being on the field, just running a new system, trying to adapt to different teammates, different players, how guys run routes, how Kevin calls the plays, and just being able to process the game at the speed I know. Being a year in and being able to talk to Kevin and AVP about what we want to do and being confident about it, it allows me to play a little bit faster when I'm on the field. The rest of the league, by all means, sleep on the Browns. Don't put them in prime time. Disregard them. Just look at Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, the AFC North, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Browns' 2023 season will be a movie. This is not a Michael Scott, I am prepared to get hurt again speech. This is a, I am that confident in this team. I have no reservations. They are going to be successful in 2023. Deshaun Watson's going to be an elite quarterback. This defense is going to be a 180 of what it was last year, and this is going to go down as the best Browns season since 1999. That's how confident I am in this team. And it's not just me who feels this way. David Njoku had this to say on Deshaun Watson. He's locked in. The energy is there. So far, I think every single ball he's thrown was precise on the money. So it excites me as well as the rest of the team, the offense. We're all excited. He looks really good. He's been very accurate the past 2 days. Very impressive. Now, our Steelers talk host here at Chat Sports, Jack Sperry, he's taking Kenny Pickett over Deshaun Watson. This is an opportunity to dunk and clown on Steelers fans because when Kenny Pickett does not improve in year 2 and the Steelers are at the cellar of the AFC North, I'll be here for the receipts. I'll be here for all the mentions on Twitter. I'll be here to clown and laugh at the Steelers. So get your DWs down in the comment section. Type in number 4 if you'd like for which quarterback you would rather have. Our third takeaway from minicamp, the wide receivers, chef's kiss. They have been looking great. They have not given Andrew Berry a reason to pick up the phone and call DeAndre Hopkins' agent. So far, this group has been more than advertised. Amari Cooper got core muscle surgery back in February, a complete 180 of where he was at the end of last season. Donovan Peoples-Jones and Elijah Moore, they are competing to be 1,000-yard receivers, and whoever loses that race will probably be an 800-yard receiver. I mean, just the way they've looked so far, I know there's only so much of a football that can go around, but they have all been super impressive. There have been no hiccups, no tweets coming out from beat reporters going, yikes, it's only June, but the Browns offense was super sloppy today. No, it has been 10 out of 10. Now, I really want to zero in on 3 of these guys, starting with Amari Cooper. Last year, when Jacoby Brissett was his quarterback, and he coincidentally was healthy all 12 of those weeks, 792 yards in 11 games and 7 touchdowns. But then from that Houston Texans game and on, when he was dealing with that core muscle injury, you can see the drop-off. Sure, he played fewer games, but still, you can prorate it. It is a big drop-off. And so with a healthy Amari Cooper pairing up with Deshaun Watson, that changes this offense. That gives you reason to believe that the Watson 6-game stretch last year where he was not very, great, let's be honest, you can put that behind you and just burn that tape on film and move on from it. Because Amari Cooper, he's an elite wide receiver. He can be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and that with Deshaun Watson, who can be a top 10 quarterback, no questions asked, that's just extra gravy. When you factor in Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I haven't even gotten to Nick Chubb, David Njoku, and this top 5 offensive line, this roster is loaded. The fact that the rest of the NFL is not waking up to it, fine, let them sleep. But you know who will not be sleeping in week 1? The Cleveland Browns. Elijah Moore has looked as advertised. I am losing my voice from this Herb Brooks speech right now. Has looked as advertised so far during minicamp. He was awesome with the toe taps, the short yardage situations, the speed element this offense desperately needed last year. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 839 yards a season ago, 3 touchdowns. I think Elijah Moore is more likely to be a 1,000-yard receiver because of that speed element and how he can complement Amari Cooper. But don't be shocked if DPJ gives all of us a big middle finger for talking about DeAndre Hopkins and goes, you want D-Hop? How about me for the next 4 seasons? I can be this team's wide receiver 1 once Amari Cooper moves on. So who do you think the leading wide receiver will be for this team in 2023? Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, or Donovan Peoples-Jones? Honestly, you can make solid arguments for all 3. Yes, Cooper is the leader in the clubhouse, and I think he's going to be this team's leading wide receiver. But what happens if Moore or DPJ have a true breakout season and they finish just a hair above Amari Cooper? Would anyone really be all that surprised? I wouldn't. I mean, you got 3 receivers here. I think 2 of them have a very good shot of being 1,000-yard receivers in 2023. The one breakdown, the one little slow your horses down a little bit will be, it is just June. And I'm more so putting this in the show for me to lower my heart rate because I get super amped up thinking about this team in 2023. It's June. There's no pass rush in 7-on-7s. There's no sacking the quarterback until week 1 when the Bengals defensive line lines up against the Browns. But the highlights and clips are football porn. And producer Jack blocked out the word porn because he did not want to see YouTube flag us. But I'll say it loud and clear. It is YouTubeporn.com. That is how, footballporn.com. That is how. Don't go to theotherone.com. That is going to bring up some very nasty images. But it is going to be awesome to see in 2023 a Browns offense that is going to be one of the best in the National Football League. Now, speaking of the best, our sportsbook partner, BetUS, has the best promo code out there for everyone. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Use promo code Browns125. When you do that, you're going to get a 125% deposit bonus. So whether it's the NBA Finals, Mexican Soccer League, the MLS, I guess that's in season. I didn't know the MLS season until Messi announced his transfer. That's my MLS knowledge, and that's us talking soccer for this episode. So make sure you're making all of your picks over at chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Browns125. Moving on to my fourth takeaway from minicamp, the revamped defensive line. We got our first real taste, our first real look at it, and it is special, right? When you look at the defensive line depth chart, you have Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Za'Darius Smith, and then you got Jordan Elliott just happy to be in the group. I will tell you guys right now, when week 1 rolls around, you're going to see a lot more of Garrett, Tomlinson, Smith, and Okoronkwo all on the field at the same time, rather than a rotation of Elliott, Winfrey, and Ika, right? Maybe for 1st and 10, when you know the team's going to run it from their own 20-yard line, that's where you see some more of the run-stopping DTs on the field. But after that, it is Jom Schwartz pinning their ears back and letting these guys up front feast. Dalvin Tomlinson spoke to the media, and here's what he said on the defensive line for Cleveland. I already know what Za'Darius can do on the middle, and just watching Obo and Myles on film and playing against them over the years, and with all of us together and bringing all our skill sets together, I feel like it's going to, and then he paused and smiled and finished it with, I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words. It's going to be amazing. And yes, it will be amazing, right? You have 2 double-digit sack players from last season on the same roster. And if Za'Darius Smith isn't out with a knee injury more or less the second half of the season where he played through it but was not a contributing factor, you could have 2 16 – I mean, that's probably a stretch, but 2 12-plus sack players in Myles Garrett and Za'Darius Smith. And we're not even factoring in Obo with a casual 5 sacks as he continues to improve year in and year out. And Dalvin Tomlinson, whose job is to stop the run, but he'll still chime in for 2 or 3 sacks here, which last year – was good enough to be this team's 2nd sack leader with Taven Bryant. This year, that's 4th or 5th on the list if all goes well. And also, don't forget about this guy, Jom Schwartz. We spent so much time last year begging for Jim Woods to get run out of town. We were successful, and he was replaced by the best option. Him and Brian Flores were 1A and 1B. So do not forget about Jom Schwartz also being added to the staff in this roster, because he is going to maximize all the talent on this defense. We've spent so much time and energy talking about Za'Darius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson. Those are great moves. You know what's also a sneaky good move? Getting Jom Schwartz, a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, on this staff. So let me know who you think the second best player on this defense will be after Myles Garrett. Denzel Ward, Za'Darius Smith, have your pick of the litter. Let me know in the comment section who you think the second best player is after MG. 5th and final takeaway from minicamp. Let's talk about Perrion Winfrey. Just the latest on number, whatever his number is right now. I can't remember it. The news on Perrion Winfrey, because Mary Kay tweeted out, Browns defensive tackle 97. Perrion Winfrey is on the field for day 3 of minicamp today after working inside the past 2 days. No one is exactly sure why he was working inside, if it was injury related, if it was in relation to the armed robbery that him and Greg Newsome went through, and just emotionally, he was not ready to go on the field. I've never been through an armed robbery, thankfully, so I have no idea what that is like, or if it was something completely unrelated to that. No one knows. But there is a story to be had here that Perrion Winfrey was working inside the first 2 days, not with the defensive line outside. And I don't even know what working inside is. When I was a summer camp counselor after freshman year of college, working inside meant you got to watch a movie because your kid was throwing dodgeballs even though he was out. So, not quite sure. Perrion Winfrey, though, I'll say this much, could be an X factor in 2023. If you can get Winfrey to be who we all hoped and dreamed he would be when they selected him 2 years ago in the draft, or a year ago, however you want to count it, I mean, think about the rotation you're going to get there, right? splash Jordan Elliott to the sun. Siaka Ika and Perrion Winfrey as this team's rotation on the inside with Dalvin Tomlinson as not 100% snap count. No defensive tackle is, but 65 to 70-ish. And all those three guys get a good rotation going. That could really put this defensive line over the edge if opposing offensive lines had to spend so much time focusing on Smith and Garrett on the outside. They don't have the resources to deal with Winfrey's pass rush abilities and Ika stopping the run and Tomlinson doing a little bit of both. Before we get on out of here, off-season mode, pick a card time. Let me know which card you are going with for our random card drawing. It is card drawing like 17 or 18 at this point, somewhere in that range. I've got to get it right. Producer Jack Lauderay, what card are you going with?
Give me the 2 of clubs.
2 of clubs, I like it. I'm going to go with the King of Diamonds. Let's cut. Oh my gosh. Back-to-back 9 of spades. It's not scripted. I just shuffled it in front of the whole camera. Back-to-back 9 of spades. 9 of spades. Back-to-back 9 of spades. Sam Brown just threw the door open because he picked 9 of spades 2 times ago. All right, that's it for today's show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off, and we'll catch up with everyone later.